As part of We the People, celebrating 250 years, here's This Day in History.
Well, as we continue to celebrate America's 250th birthday this summer, we're sharing our We the People series, people, places, and things of the past that have shaped our country what it is today, including something to do with our full moon out there. Nice timing, Charlie.
Yeah. On this day, July 29th, 1958, NASA was created. The agency has been responsible for space expeditions, both human and mechanical, that have yielded vital information about the solar system and the universe. NASA was created in response to the Soviet Union's launch of its first satellite, Sputnik 1. The 183-pound basketball-sized satellite orbited the Earth in 98 minutes. The Sputnik launch caught Americans by surprise and sparked fears that the Soviets might also be capable of sending missiles with nuclear weapons from Europe to America. The United States prided itself on being at the forefront of technology, and embarrassed, it immediately began developing a response, signaling the start of the U.S.-Soviet space race. On July 20th, 1969, NASA's Apollo 11 mission made history when astronaut Neil Armstrong became the first person to set foot on the moon, famously declaring, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." NASA has continued to make great advances in space exploration since the first moonwalk, including playing a major part in the construction of the International Space Station. That's This Day in History for July 29th.
And we learned last month that you remember exactly where you were watching that first moon landing, which is so cool, Charlie.
I can remember the kitchen table even.
That's just so wild.
It's odd, yeah, but I have zero memory prior to that.
Birth, moon.
Right, and
fell in
yeah,
love with
birth,
weather.
table, and man walking on the moon. It's everything prior to that is just a big blank.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, it's super impressive what these astronauts are capable of. And even for that last orbit around the moon, we learned that there was an astronaut, somebody within NASA from Green Bay, who we spoke with. So it's just super cool to see all of these Wisconsin connections to NASA as well. Charlie, thank you.